Hello everyone, how's it going? I am the Average Guy 1983. Thank you so much for tuning into video 4 or part 4 of the JL Audio C7 system install. I figured I would just go ahead and try to briefly explain what I'm going to be doing in this video. Technically here I'm going to be soldering the quick disconnects that were featured on one of Mark's from Car Audio Fabrications videos. What I have here is 12 gauge quick disconnects. These are the male parts here, and the reason why I'm using the male parts inside of the car for the wires that are there is because these ones allow you to put up to a 1/4 inch of wiring with solder into the connector, versus the female, which is a lot more harder to work with. This one here, the female plug, it only gives you a maximum of 1/8 of an inch of wire that you can put into the plug. So I figured I would use these ones for the connectors that are going to be going onto the actual speakers themselves, since I can work from this, inside of my home instead of outside. And these ones here, since it allows me to do up to a 1/4 of an inch of wiring here for soldering, I can use these inside of the car, since the cables are actually already mounted right here inside of the car. So I have to split these cables apart up to maybe, I'm going to say about 2 inches or so, just of clearance, just to have this open. And I would have to strip off a 1/4 of an inch of the insulation to expose a 1/4 of an inch of wiring, add some solder to this wire, and then add some solder to the connector right here, this connector here. And there you go. So again, it only goes up to a 1/4 inch deep. So but they're very useful, they're convenient to have. The heat shrink is to add with this little plastic cover here. This goes on top of here, and there are some that don't include it and some that do. So in the video description, I will show you guys, or basically add the link for these exact ones that I bought that comes with the little cover here. So sorry if I can't get the video to focus well here. Let me see here. There we go. It goes there. And then this heat shrink here is 1/2 inch wide. I'll pick that other piece off that just fell. This is 1/2 inch wide, which would be covering this cable here, or not cable, the connector, the plug. So couple things you're going to need for this project. It's going to be some wire strippers. Okay, see if I can focus on that. For some reason this phone's really starting to give out. But here you go. Need some wire strippers. A soldering station is preferred with the soldering gun. This is a soldering gun that I have. It's a digital one. It's called a Yuhua 928D version 3. And it does Celsius and Fahrenheit, so I have it set to Fahrenheit so I can understand better than the Celsius. And a heat gun, so to be able to heat up the heat shrink and have the wire a little bit more safe. And anything that looks imperfected on the cable, once it's plugged in, it'll be covered up by that 2-inch strip of heat shrink. So let me go ahead and get this set up. Also, here's the LC7. Now I'm not going to do anything on the LC7 in this video. I just took it out because I had it in the trunk, and I need the trunk space to be able to climb in here, sit there, and then start working on these wires right here. So I'm going to show you guys basically what I'm going to do on one wire, and then stop the video there, and then I'm going to do the rest of the wires in the car, starting from the D pillars to the A pillars, there and there, and then finally the door speakers, which will probably either be done in this video and just show you guys how I'm going to solder one from in there. It's pretty much the same thing though, but so I'm probably just going to go ahead and skip this for right now. But yeah, I at least want to focus on the hardest things for me, so I can go ahead and plug everything in. The D pillar speakers, and then the A D pillar speakers in the back, sorry about that, and then the A pillar speakers in the front, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. And then the last thing would be the door speakers. And then underneath here, which you might or might not be able to see, I can go ahead and rearrange the wires that are supposed to connect to the accessory line to turn all the gear on inside the car, because without that line, nothing's going to power up for me. So I got to make sure that that will be the very last thing I do underneath the dash to finalize everything and get the system basically done. So let me go ahead and set myself up here, and then we'll get started in this video, and I'll show you guys how I'm doing one wire, and then from there we'll start focusing on the speakers as well, because the speakers also need to be soldered, and I plan on doing that in this video. And on part 5 I will go ahead and show you guys how to add the speakers to the D pillars after making the holes for them. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so when my soldering iron starts warming up or heating up, let's go ahead and start cutting the 1/4 of an inch, strip off a 1/4 of an inch of the silicone sleeve. And you want to open it up for about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches at most on each one, just like this. And what you want to add next is going to be the heat shrink. So you want to add the heat shrink in here first, the sleeve. So we're going to do that on both. Actually, we're going to do that on all of them too, but I'm just showing you here on how I'm going to do each one, so you guys can get an idea of what you have to do, you know, just in case you have to do the same thing yourselves. So today I'm also using my Rode Wireless Go microphone and my little microphone attachment, so that this way I can focus both of my hands on what I have to do here, and then talk to you guys at the same time without having to worry about anything. And I have something that's monitoring, like I showed earlier before. I think I showed you guys this little device here that does all the monitoring for me as I'm talking. So I really like that I bought this after all. So okay, we have 2 of those set up. The next thing you want to do is you want to add the little covers. There you go. You want to add these little covers to the wires. So what you want to do is you just want to get the cover here and then add each wire through it. Also make sure you know which one's positive. For me, positive is the wire that has the letters on it in white that says New Concepts 12 gauge on it. So I know which one is positive, but we want to have it like this, so then it just goes this far up. And then once we have the wire soldered onto the little connector, we can just bring this little plug all the way down, clip it into place, and then bring this down on top of this like this, which it would be going on just like that, similar to that, but all the way in, and heat it up with the soldering. I mean, not the soldering, the heat gun. So here we go. And I'm not going to be playing any music for this segment of the install. And the reason why I chose not to do that is because I don't want to burn the music tracks that I've already made and get you guys tired of it. So I'm running out of tunes here. But okay, let's go ahead and start cutting up this a 1/4. So this is 12 gauge wire, so we're going to go with number 12 right here. Hope you guys can see it. There you go. Bring it closer to you guys. And we want to cut about a 1/4 of an inch. Just like that. So that's approximately a 1/4 of an inch. And then just tighten up the little wire like that, just like that. We're going to do the same thing with the second cable. Again, 12 gauge, about a 1/4 of an inch or so. Just like that. Okay, so now that we have these two set up here, hopefully you guys can see that. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can make this video look a little bit more clear. There we go. We're gonna go ahead and start seeing if I can use my soldering gun already. And what I want to do is I would like to add solder, if it's possible. Let me go ahead and bring my little station over here. Oh yes, it fits. Nice. See how I have my little station right there? That looks awesome. So hopefully this will work. So let me see, let me go back up here and zoom in here on the wire, just like that. And what I don't want to do is like create too much distortion. So we're gonna go ahead and grab some of this solder, and what you want to do is you want to start heating the cable. Now normally you would heat the cable in this manner, hopefully you guys can see it there, like this. And as you heat it up, you start adding your solder. Let's see. Now it would be a lot easier if I had my helping hands, but unfortunately I can't seem to add it that way. But you guys kind of get the idea, right? There you go. Ah, that's perfect. So there's one solder lead right there. See that? Hopefully you guys can see that. I apologize for the phone's video quality looking so poor, man. It really sucks. I'm sorry about that. I'm like trying to make sure that it looks clean, but I can't get it to look that great. So let me go ahead and grab the second one here. And I have the cable here at, not the cable, the soldering gun at 700 degrees out of 900 that this thing can do. So hopefully you guys can see that. So I'm gonna try to heat up the cable. Oh, that's not looking so great. The other one came out better, but it's because I don't have something to hold it steady for me while I apply the solder. This isn't the way I normally like to do things. But that worked out. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, cool. All right then, we have both of them on. So now we're gonna add some solder to the quick disconnect. So let me go ahead, bring that over here. Hold on real quick. I gotta remove the soldering from the point here. And let me go ahead and go to the quick disconnect. Okay, so just in case I didn't explain this before, on this quick disconnect, one side has the positive and the other side has the negative on this. And if you turn it around, it doesn't have anything on there. So to be able to get this correctly on the connector, the flat side that you see here, this flat side is positive, and the round side of the connector here that you see, the round side, it is negative. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and then start adding the solder to this. So sorry about that. Let me go ahead and try to fix this again. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. So now we add just a tiny bit of solder onto the connector. So you want to heat up the connector. You could even heat it from the bottom just like this. And as you heat it up, add the solder at the top. If it doesn't want to do that, then just go ahead and do it from the top. And I think it's probably doing that because of the fact that I'm working from the inside of the house. See, just like that. That's all you want to add, just a tiny bit of it. Just add a little bit more. There we go. And now we want to turn it around. And do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring it on over to the inside of the car so we can add the quick disconnect to the vehicle. Here we go. Alrighty, so now what we want to do here is just grab the solder or the soldering gun, start heating up the solder so that the wire can get into the connector. And normally, if I would have done this from inside of the house, it would have been a lot easier for me, because I wouldn't have to worry about heating anything up or getting anything on here like this. But you want to make sure not to touch the side that's getting soldered on, because it is very, very difficult. But that's on already. Let me go ahead and adjust it, and then I'll go ahead and get back to you guys on this video once I finish this connector here. So let me see. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. I had to get something to lift up this area because it's really windy out here, and the wind is preventing me from being able to properly solder on these connectors. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys real quick. I have my soldering gun right now at 750 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to go ahead and connect this last plug that we need to connect right here. So all we have to do now, let me just go ahead and adjust that real quick. There we go. Is grab this little cable here that already has solder. Okay, so we're just going to stick it in there just like that. We're going to heat up this part, and this is why it's a good idea to have one of these helping hand tool thingies. So as we heat everything up, we can start moving in the wire into its little socket. Now this one is the easiest because, like I said, you can put up to 1/4 of an inch of a wire. On the other one, you could only do 1/8 of an inch. Now unfortunately, even this wind is so bad right now, man. It's making it very hard for me to try to solder this in. But here we go. There we go. Just like that. Ouch. Got really hot there for a minute. There we go. Now it's soldered on. You guys can see that, right? Cool. All right, let me go ahead and take this off of here now, because I have to do all the other ones in the same exact manner. So it's going to be a real pain to record each one at a time. So let me go ahead and just show you guys what else needs to be done here real quick. All right, so let me make sure I don't burn myself. Move this to the side. Okay, so now that you guys have seen, let me move my cat's food here out of the way. If I would have been smart, I would have done this from the inside of the house. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, I was going to originally use the connectors from JL, and but then I noticed that their connectors were very flimsy, and I didn't think it was a good idea for me to use those. So I figured these will be better so that they won't disconnect in case they move a little bit back and forth inside of the D pillar. You know, I won't have that problem. Now the last thing I need to do is run this little cap down. So this, like I said, covers the imperfections of the wiring. And once it goes in there and it clips on into place, we no longer have to worry about this cable. So sometimes you need a little bit of help. There we go, there's one side. Do the other side. There we go. Now the cap is on, and this is how it looks like. See that? And again, flat side is positive, the rounded edge is negative. So you gotta make sure you do that on both sides. Then we can go ahead and get this heat shrink that's a 1/2 inch wide and put it over this connector just like that. And the last thing I'll have to do is heat it up. Once I heat it up, everything will come into place. So hold on real quick while I get the heat gun now and heat it up. Alrighty, let's turn on the heat gun. Now on the heat gun, you gotta make sure that it's nice and hot. So I'm putting my hand over it just to start feeling the heat. Now let's go ahead and heat it up. Just like that. You want to turn it a little bit to heat it up on both ends. Just like that. Turn it around the other way. Do the same thing. Until it takes shape. And I'll tighten everything up nice for you. And there we go. That's done. So let's take a really good close at this wire now. And that's how it's supposed to look like. Now you don't have to worry about this disconnecting at all once we have the opposite end on with the tweeter or the D-pillar 3.5 inch driver. So that's basically how you do the soldering. And my recommendation is to preset your, if you're going to do the same thing with these quick disconnects, try to do it from inside of your home first with something like the helping hand kit that I showed you guys. So you won't have the hard time that I'm having doing this here, because now I have to do the rest of these and get all of this going on. And I also added some solder to the wire joints there on against the speaker cup, so that this way that won't come apart either. When the sub starts, you know, vibrating back and forth from the base and everything, it won't disconnect and I won't have to worry about having some kind of a short. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the other 7 cables I need to do, and then we'll get back to this video and show you guys basically the end results along with the speakers. So I'm going to be soldering the speakers as well, so that should be pretty fun and entertaining. I hope you guys watch the whole video through instead of just watching a few minutes. So if I bore you guys, speak up, like send me some feedback, okay, so I know what to do, whether it's negative or positive. You know, just let me know, because I want to be able to be helpful to you guys. And that's the whole point as to why I'm making these videos, man. So again, you know, just let me know, man. Give me some feedback, okay guys? So let me finish all of these wires, and then I'm going to go ahead and start working on the speakers and soldering the leads on those opposite ends and stuff. So here we go, man. Alrighty everyone, so today is Monday, April 5th, 2021, and I took a Sunday off. I didn't want to do anything on Sunday, but here's one of the plugs that I made. Now, the first time you guys seen this, along with these other 2 that I have here, I had some Tesa tape in the bottom and at the top to hold this wire in place. But I got some of this 2.5 inch heat shrink that's semi-transparent delivered. So I was able to use that instead, and it's a much better look. It looks a whole lot better like this. So what I have here at the top is the original connectors that are supposed to go for the JL tweeters, from the amplifier to the tweeters. They will connect here in these ends. The bottom here has a 14 gauge bullet connector that's soldered on from the bottom. And here's the actual bullet connector here that just unplugs. And let's see here. I have the quick disconnect, which will be going to the vehicle soon for the D pillar and A pillar location. And then obviously the heat shrink now. The reason why I did it like this is so that in case this capacitor ever blows out, I can easily grab some scissors, cut this edge here and the side here, or even with the little box cutter, just, you know, cut it up, and I can remove this capacitor, desolder the leads from here and from here in the bottom, and then put it onto the new capacitor. And then once I solder those back on, I can use some more heat shrink, put it back together, and then I can reinstall it back into the vehicle in case it burns out. But again, it shouldn't, because like it says here, this is a 250 volt DC. That's a lot of power when it comes to RMS watts or volts. And in my case, I'm probably, nobody really uses more than like 30 something to 40 something volts when it comes to tuning an amplifier. But I have the DD1 Plus, so it's a different story for me. But still, this is this thing can handle a lot of RMS power, so I doubt that this would ever blow out. But just in case, you know, you never know if it might. So I figured I'd show you guys how I did these three, which I have here already, these three. So what you want to do is you want to get your capacitor. The capacitor comes like this, and it comes folded on each end like in a U shape like this for the packaging purposes of the tweeter. But I believe it's non-polarized from what I heard from JL Audio, so you can use it. There is no positive or negative, it's either or. So I can either plug it in this way or I can plug it in this way. But in my case, because of the way the letters are here, I want them facing in an up position like this. So I'm going to use this end here for the direction where the tweeter will connect to, and the bottom side they will be going from the amplifier. So I need to put this original hardware that's here. This little plug will have to go on the top here, and then the bullet connector, which I have in a little kit that I made myself right here. There's a bullet connector in there right there. That bullet connector is going to go in the bottom. So let's go ahead and start off with the top, and we are going to cut down the little wire that's here to size, so that this way I can get this soldered on. So my solder iron is on already, and I will be using the same soldering iron, and I'll make sure to list everything that I can that's still available on the video so you guys can see it. So since this plug is right here, okay, hopefully you guys can see that. There you go. This is going to have to go in here like this. So see how what you want to do is you want to cut it right at this end. So the way I did it was I just measured the bottom of this end to the bottom here, and I cut it right where my finger's at, right there. And then I added solder to the connector. So I'm going to go ahead, grab my wire cutters here. Just like that. Move that to the side. And now this should pretty much already be cut down to size. And yeah, see that? Now it could be just a tad shorter, but it's not necessary because the wire connector stops right at that gap there. It doesn't exceed that. So this is fine. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring up my, this thing here, and I'm going to wire this up here like this. Well, not wire it, but put it there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some solder, which I have the roll right here in the back. Oops, it shouldn't have been that way. It should be this way. Just like that. And I'm going to start soldering, or adding some solder here. Go. So you want to put a decent amount. Not too much, but just enough to, you know, add some, just like that. And what I want to do now is face it in the down position like this, so it can be more towards the front. There we go, like that. See that? Hopefully you guys can see it like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and put this right here, just like that, being held by the little helping hands in the bottom there. And now I'm going to go ahead and solder this connector this way. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I have it facing in the direction I want it to face, which I want the label facing this way. And then we're going to put this connector in here like this. Now it's not going to go all the way down because of the solder. So what you have to do, you're going to have to grab your second helping hands, turn it sideways, and we're going to be using this on top of here, like that. And we're going to start heating up the bottom end first. Ouch. burned a little bit. And then go from the top. And that should do it. Now let's double check it. Ouch. It definitely soldered it on. Yeah, it's on solid. It ain't gonna go anywhere. But there you have it. So now I have to do the same thing with the opposite side. And I know it doesn't look all that clean, but this is the way to do it. Just like that. And this connector won't come off anymore. Now I have to cut the bottom size down to size. So for that, for the bullet connector, I'm using a male bullet connector. And I want this bullet connector to go about to this line right here. Just like this, but let's see if I can bring that closer. So probably right around right there, if you guys can see that. There we go. Till about right there, not all the way up. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it down right now. Alrighty, just like this. And then we want this to be as straight as possible because it's a little crooked still. There we go, it's about as straight as it's gonna be. And then we put the bullet connector there. Now you can crimp this if you want, or you can solder it. I'm going to solder it on. So I'm gonna do that right now. And then we'll get back to this video because this is kind of taking a bit long, but this is part of the process of me doing this. So I figured I would record this so I can show you guys what I'm doing. So here we go, let me solder this area on here first. Alrighty, so here we go. So I've already done the solder on this end here. See that? Just like that. And we are going to put some heat shrink in the bottom just so that it can have a nice cleaner look. But that's it there. So now I can go ahead and get started with the rest of the cables. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so this part of the hardware is already done. So I have this area here heat shrinked with some this one is already, with solder. Same thing on the opposite side here on the bullet connector. You can see just a little bit of solder there, but it's not a big deal. It's still going to connect, but it's nicely covered up already. See, just like that. And then I didn't feel like it was necessary for me to show you guys how I do the soldering here because I've already, did that earlier. So now all we have to do here is just connect this plug down here in this direction like this. So then this just goes in. Just like that. It's already about as tight as it's going to be. And then this end is going to go up here like this. So then what we have to do with this 2.5-inch heat shrink, which is a little too big. It's a little bigger than I originally anticipated it to be. Maybe I could have gotten away with like 1.5. But it goes in like this, just like that. And the cable is roughly about 9 inches. From here to here is about 9 inches. And what we want to do is we want to put this heat shrink here like this in the middle. But we want this plug, this connector part here to face here like this. So I want it to be even. Probably around right there. And then straighten that out there. That's good right there. It's not a big deal. Okay, so let's make it a little more deeper. Right there is fine. Okay, so just like that. So now what you want to do is you want to grab your heat gun and you want to start blowing it in from the inside here. So here we go. So your hands are going to burn a little bit, but bear with it. As this heats up, then you can go ahead and go on the opposite side. Once it starts getting into shape like that, then you can go ahead and just set it down and start hitting it with the heat gun just like that, all the way around. Just like that. Want to grab it, turn it around the other way, and do the same thing here. Just like that. You want to keep hitting it with the heat gun until most of the wrinkles are removed from this heat tube, because it's much thicker than the other stuff. So once it looks like this, what you want to do is you want to heat these parts here, these ends, just a bit. Okay, to heat them up. And then what you want to do is you want to put it against the table like this to mount the to make the shape here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but I'm using the table, the edge of it, so I can and this thing is really hot, so I'm using the edge here just to try to smash the ends down of the heat shrink so it can be shaped like this. Now don't worry about this connector. Again, I can always fix it up just like that, and this can be fixed like that. Okay, that's how you want it to look. So now I have to repeat the same step for the bottom area, and this cable will be done. So let me go ahead and finish that. Alrighty, and that's the end results of that. So that's how it looks like from the bottom, from the top here, where the tweeter will be plugging into. And then here is the bottom end. And now these have to go into the car. And I have to find out how I'm going to mount these, because on the D pillar, it's going to be easy to mount because there's plenty of space in there. But on the A pillar side, it's a little more tighter, so I'm going to have to try to figure that out. But now I have all 4 of these ready, just like that. Oops. There you go. I have all 4 of these ready to go into the vehicle, and all of this is done here. So now I can get to the soldering of the speaker leads and just show you guys how I'm going to do the 3.5 inch and one of the 6.5 inchers, and then go from there. We'll pretty much end the video on that segment, and then on the next one you'll see me installing the D pillar speakers into its spot, and perhaps the A pillars as well. Alrighty guys, so here we go. Alrighty ladies and gentlemen, because of how long this video has become, I decided to just go ahead and just show you guys how I'm going to solder one speaker. So I have the JL Audio C7 3.5 inch driver, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using this as a stand for the speaker, and I'm going to just move this out of the way here. And I already have some solder right here on these cables. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. No? Yeah, there you go. And the same thing on this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a stand. So let me go ahead and turn this on again, turn on my soldering gun, and here's the back of the speaker. You guys can see it's pretty small. It's only 3.5 inches wide, and this is perfect for off-axis or on-axis sound for your speakers. The last thing you'll have to remove when you install them is just a little sticker that's in the back. This little area, just pop that off, and then that's it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do the positive wire first. So we're going to go ahead and put the speaker in this way, and we're going to use this like a stand. So this is how it's going to be able to solder on the connector. And then I also have some heat shrink here already on these ends to just lift them up and put them up against this and heat it up, and that connector is nice and secure. So I'm only going to do this one speaker because I've already made the video super long, and that wasn't my intention at all. I know a lot of you guys don't watch it all the way through, so I'm trying to do everything I can to make this as fun as possible. So now we're just going to add some solder on one side of this connector. So kind of like this. There we go. just like that. So now that we have solder there, hopefully you guys can see that. There we go. We can go ahead and solder the positive side, which is this one here. So let's go ahead and grab this solder here real quick. We're going to put it on top. See if I can do this from here. And what I want to do is I want to do my best to merge this wire just like that, and just hold it in place until it dries up a bit. Your hand is going to hurt a little bit because you can definitely, ouch, feel the heat from the wire. But that side's done there. You see that? That's a pretty damn good solid connector there. So then all we got to do here is just grab this heat shrink here, pull it all the way through, and then we just solder this, not solder, but use a heat gun to cover that in, and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and turn the speaker around the opposite way. Okay, just like that. And now we're gonna do this part. So let me grab some more solder, and this time I have my heat gun at 700 degrees. So heat this up and add a reasonable amount of solder, just like that. That's perfect. That came out better than the other side. And now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing here with this cable here. Place it on top, and then heat it up. And what we want to do is we want to make this cable part of this. Oops. Hold it still till it dries up, or till it cools down just a tiny bit, and that's it. And that's how you basically do the cable there. And that's how I'm going to do all of my other speakers. So then the last thing is just, you know, getting the heat shrink on the edges here. So let me heat shrink that right now, and then I'll show you guys the end results. Alrighty, and this is the end results. Here's the bottom, just like that. Negative, positive side, and here's the bottom connector, and this is done and ready. So now I don't have to worry about these connections getting loose on the D pillar or the A pillar and having issues later on. So this is for the D pillars because the A pillars have already been installed in the, well, this D speakers here for the A pillars have already been installed in the A pillars, and I've showed, I believe, a picture or video of that before when I did the Tweak 88 video. But yeah, this is it. So all I gotta do is repeat the same exact thing with the 6.5 inch speakers, and I'm good to go, man. So that's it for the video. This is part 4. Stay tuned for part 5, and thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope you guys watched the video all the way through. The products that I have here, like the soldering gun, the solder, all this stuff, this, and this came with this kit, and it has some magnetic lighting thingy like that, so there's all of that there. But yeah, I'm going to add these things in the under the description in case you're interested in purchasing it for yourself. I got it at Parts Express, so hopefully it's still available. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video. See you guys in part 5.